Hello, everyone. Here it is, a rainy Friday, but it finally feels like fall, and that's kind of nice because we were just stuck in summer. And I was worried we were going to go straight from summer into winter, and so now we're actually having some fall. And who doesn't like a nice, rainy, drizzly, autumnal day in October? I mean, that's some of my favorite days. Of course, my poor sweet baby can't take his walk today, so that's sad. At least we always take our walk when we can. So, gotta remember that we try. You can only do so much. Now, anyway, moving on to politics. Fridays are always the bad day because, normally we'd get into the weekend. Yay, it's the weekend. But 45 delivers all these bad executive orders on Fridays. And I asked Spirit why that was a while back, and they said it's because it's like a quota, like a cop that has to get a certain number of tickets. 45, they present to him at the end of the week all these executive orders that some he barely even knows about, that they've all formulated around him and loosely talked about. And he just signs them. He signs them all. And I know he has more knowledge of it than that, but sometimes it doesn't seem like his eyes are even open when he's signing some of these papers. And of course, hello, my name is Amy. Everything I say is for entertainment purposes only. Well, I wrote down some topics. I mean, it's been how can you top just this entire week, right? It's pretty bad. So, I did a reading yesterday and I did cards, and what would his announcement be? Well, I thought maybe he was going to come out and try to be a savior and say that he would restore SNAP and all that good stuff. But it really was about these cartels, and I guess I'll get that out of the way first. That's really horrible, the things that he's saying. He's just blatantly saying that, because they asked, if you are bombing these basically fishermen out on the ocean, and you're just bombing them because of hearsay, evidence, you don't know that these are cartel, and they kept using the word cartel, which conjures up Breaking Bad, which I've kind of always felt about 45, that he's like the head honcho guy in Breaking Bad. But anyway, so they asked him, if you're going to do this, isn't this like an act of war? And Trump said, no, it's not war. We're just going to kill him. We're just going to kill him. And then they, got drugs, we're going to kill him. And it's just blatantly talking about how they're going to unalive people. And again, this is for entertainment purpose only. I don't agree with any of this. I'm just stating intuitive knowledge. But the way he just blatantly, just like Walter White, or like the head of the head honcho guy in Breaking Bad, just, oh yeah, we're just going to unalive them. Well, you can't just unalive people. Every single living person has to have due process. You can't just bomb boats. And they just recently showed he bombed one. The people were innocent. This is crazy. You can't just do that. You can't. And just how blatantly he talked about unaliving people. And then I thought, well, if drugs is the only qualification, there's a lot of people in America who are on drugs across the world. It's part of the human experience that we have vices. And man, you'd have to unalive a lot of people in society if the qualification is just, the state of Colorado, western Kansas. There's a lot of places, Texas, where people would be you'd have to bomb everybody, basically. So obviously we can't be bombing people. And you can't just callously unalive humans. It's humans. It really sounded like he was hunting humans, and he was making it sound logical. It's not logical. It's not okay. It's bad. It's very bad. And this is why when I hear him say things like that, I think, my God, somebody needs to step in and tell him no. And he needs a mental health assessment, because there's something wrong there. Now, adding to that, a story I read today where they said that there's reports of when he was a child, and they backed it up. This is real. 45 would throw rocks at people. Now, I have a story about that. So when I was a kid, there was still a field okay, we had our neighborhood, and behind us, there's a row of houses behind us in our little small town neighborhood. It's like a small town suburbia, basically. And behind that row of houses, they hadn't built any other houses, which later got developed. But for the time, it was like an open field. So behind us. So we would go back on that other street on the block and ride bikes and play. We had a lot of friends over there where it was like doing a loop around the neighborhood, and that was one place where we played and had a lot of friends. Okay, so this particular summer day, it was like an early summer day. We were playing in that open field and like tag. We were playing tag, and the lady whose house was adjacent to the field, she had a camper, and they were going to go camping, and her grandson had shown up because they were all going to go camping together. So he asked if he could play, and we're like, okay, you know, strange kid in the neighborhood, but okay, we'll invite you in to play. So he started throwing rocks at us. And it's like instantly when you get hit by a rock, you just think, it's like that feeling of, what the heck? This kid's crazy. You're like, don't do that. Don't play, you know, don't do that. You either have to throw rocks back, you run, which is probably what we did. I think I probably did. But you also just feel like, my God, this guy's insane. This kid's insane. So, and the way that we couldn't ration with him was what was the craziest thing of all. It'd be one thing if he said, oh gosh, okay, yeah, that's wrong. But he's just like, the more we asked him not to do it, the more he did it. And it was like, this kid's crazy. He's gonna kill us. So we ran into the grandma's house, and like, he's throwing rocks at us, and we tattletaled on him, which we normally wouldn't do. And the kid kind of walked over sullen, and his grandma was like, oh, well, his parents are sick, and they dropped him off with me, and he's kind of sad. And we were like, can you just tell him not to do it, or he'll get in trouble? I mean, that was like all we really wanted was some rules. And she was like, oh, well, he's just, and we're like, yeah, she's not going to deal with this. So we tried to play again, and he threw rocks at us again. So I remember that day is that feeling of, this is crazy. So we just like ended playing and went back to our homes, and the fun was over because of that one crazy kid that had, but the real problem was his grandmother, and probably his parents, but his grandmother, who made excuses. And that's the whole thing about Frump. It's the people, I mean, he has his issues, obviously, but it's the people around him who won't do anything. So here we have this horrible, all these things he's doing that are really horrible, and we can all see it's deranged. Like, look at the east wing of the White House, and the tariffs, and the bombing boats, and then the whole thing in our own cities where we have wars in our cities, and all these horrible, like a report of a blind man who, in, I believe it was Oregon, who was thrown to the ground by you-know-who, icy roads. He was, a blind man was thrown to the ground and dragged and beaten up. That's insane. That's insane. That's inhumane, and it's insane. But it's going back to the guy, the rock thrower, who you can't make logic with, you can't talk to, you can't reason with, and he won't stop. And that he grew up because no one ever stopped him and made rules, and now he's a grown-up rock thrower. That's what he's doing. Frump is still throwing rocks. That's actually a really great example of who he is. And he refuses. So with the whole no Klingon day that happened on Saturday, where we all peacefully, all of us, it was a joyous celebration, but somber, but we all came together, everyone, more than 13 million, I'm sure it's more than 13 million, and peacefully made our voices heard that we're concerned and there have to be changes in this country, because it's not, and we're not with his rock throwing mentality. We're not with it. And we're asking for decent governing in our country. Anyway, so he's saying that we're all not representative, we're all fake, it's fake, the signs are fake, and they're not representative of America. Yes, we are. We actually are. And it was all sectors of life were there. So, yeah, he said that. Okay, so what's going to happen with that? Well, I think other countries are going to declare some things with him that he can't do that, or they might have to retaliate. Clearly, Congress isn't going to do anything, and the Supreme Court isn't going to do anything. That's clear. He's unhinged and untethered and unruled. And so other countries are going to declare something against him. Retaliation. Again, for entertainment purposes only intuitive opinion. Now the tariffs, again, not fact, just opinion. You know, he's saying the tariffs are working. Well, if they're working, why do you have to have, he said he had to pull some outside money and have an outside donor give money for the military and outside money to help the farmers and outside money for this. If the tariffs were working, we wouldn't have to have outside donations. We would have money. If Doge had actually done what they said they were going to do, which they didn't, they blatantly infiltrated our systems and took our money and wasted $20 billion and more. So if all of this is working, we wouldn't have to borrow money. We'd have money, honey. We'd have money, honey. To the tariff thing. So the tariffs aren't working. If they were working, we'd all be able to afford groceries. We'd have money, and I just saw 11/11. We'd have money for SNAP. We'd have money for the ACA. We wouldn't be battling over if people get to have health care. That's what the Democrats are battling, to save health care. That's what John McCain fought so hard for before he died, was to save health care for people. And Democrats, I don't like all the Democrats. Some of them are really pissing me off, you know, opinionated only, not, you know, very peacefully I say that they're pissing me off. But they're stuck too close to the problem and they don't have good perspective. But most of the Democrats are trying really hard to save health care so people don't die. That's what this shutdown is about. It's about Democrats keeping health care so people don't die. There is no plan on the other side unless you want OzCare and RFK care, because that's what they're doing. They're trying to make you buy their health care. Take a sip of tea here. They don't have a plan. John McCain fought really hard for people to have ACA health care. And he wouldn't have done that if it wasn't divinely guided, in my opinion. Could it be worked on and made better? Yes. But as it is, it should stand. The ACA should stand. We should pray for that. We should pray that John McCain can still step in from spirit and help preserve the ACA, American Care Act. But that's what the shutdown is about from the Democrat side. Now, really, the shutdown is about 45. It's from Project 2out25 and Trump being able to do whatever he wants. And that's what he's doing. He's not listening to anyone. He's not taking guidance or suggestions or laws or regulations. He's just getting money wherever he can, shutting down everything so he can get all this money. And then he is not having to answer to anyone. So essentially, he's not really even president anymore. He's just a guy who's getting to do whatever he wants. A president would have to negotiate and listen to everyone, councils, governments, Congress, Supreme Courts, historical preservation committees, and zoning planners, and all these things. But he's not listening to anyone. So he's not really doing his job. He's just doing whatever he wants. But yeah, the tariff thing. So he's saying, oh, we have to get beef from Argentina now. So emergency beef, even though we were getting beef from China and here in the Midwest, just like the soybeans and everything else, the tariffs have ruined it. We wouldn't be getting emergency diseased beef from Argentina if the tariffs worked. Plain and simple. If people could afford to run their cattle farms, if we could get the meat the way that we were getting it, the channels we were getting it in, everything would be okay. If people could buy groceries and afford things, this would be okay. Maybe we should all just stop eating meat. Maybe that's what's going to happen here. But obviously the tariffs aren't working. We wouldn't even have a shutdown if the tariffs were working, because we'd have money for the ACA. We'd have money for Supreme Court. We'd have money for SNAP. We'd have money for everything. Clearly it's not working. Next thing, let's talk about the East Wing. Okay, so as soon as he started to demolish the East Wing, I got that he was going to demolish all of it, and it would start to break in. He would touch the White House structure. and eventually it would move on to the West Wing being torn down. And as you can see, he's already ripping into parts of the main White House structure. Now, we know that's at this point, what can we do? If they won't do anything and the construction company won't listen, they should be stopped and fined. I mean, here's the thing. And he says private donors. Well, who's the private donors? One of them was Palantir. So that's really our money because they took our money out of Doge. Doge took our money. But also, he's connected to Qatar. And, you know, that sort of goes back to this whole 9/11 thing for entertainment purpose only, where he's getting the job done that they weren't allowed to finish because we stopped them, but he's doing their job for them. And private donors makes me really wonder if it's from Qatar, and that's just not okay. But I do feel like there's going to be such structural damage to the White House structure, that building, that he may, in just a whim, tear everything down. And I do think he's going to tear down the West Wing. I do. Now, you know, they ask Karoline Leavitt, well, didn't he lie when he said in July that he's not going to touch the... And she was like, no, he didn't say that. He said, and then she lists all the stuff. You know, there are tapes, you know. We can play tapes. Lies are how to prove a lie. When somebody says something didn't happen, or somebody didn't say a certain word, and then you could play the tape of them saying exactly that. So what they should be asking her right now is, will he tear down the White House structure? Will he tear down the West Wing? Those would be a good question to ask right now on tape. Of course, she'll say, I don't know if they will. It's up to them. So basically, it could happen. The answer, yes or no. Could it happen? What's almost more disturbing, but I don't know, it's all disturbing, is how they can't see it. How they can't see how bad that is. But Obama had a basketball court, so he put up a hoop. That's not the same thing. That's like somebody having some old Victorian house in 1863, no, it'd be like 1888, they put an addition on to the bedroom. So they put in a, you know, like a library addition to the bedroom, and it's been there for 100 years, and many generations have sat in that library and had Christmas and etc. There's been sickness and death and birth and all these things, and it's part of the family. It may not be part of the original structure, but the original structure was there was just dirt before the White House and some rocks and stuff like that. It probably was native land, but you know. So let's say you have a house, let's say MAGA has a house, a Victorian house, and in 1898 they put on a library. So now we say, let's say Kamala's president, and she says, I'm going to tear down that library that you've had for over 100 years. I'm just going to tear it down. Because it's not the original, and also, according to Karoline Leavitt, it's vertical. Well, aren't all buildings vertical, basically? I mean, the Statue of Liberty is vertical. You can tear that down. Hope they don't. But yeah, her logic doesn't logic, and they lie, and they should just ask straight off, what are you going to tear down next? Just tell us right now on tape. She gaslights. It's major gaslighting. But what was really disturbing too was they said, where's all the paintings? Where's the stairwells, the woodwork, the tile, the window, the molding? And where's the paintings of the first ladies? Where are they? And somebody said that there was a picture, I haven't seen it, but there's a picture of paintings and artifacts in the rubble. Because he doesn't care. He doesn't care. Somebody was arguing with me today about voting because I really kind of ramped up online, like, you know, I don't have 100% proof, but I'm pretty much have figured out that, you know, the election was stolen, and here's how. But even if I didn't have my hunches and suspicions that, you know, pretty much are true, because Election Truth Alliance has shown the anomalies in the key states. We should have just done hand recounts, but whatever. Let's talk about Roger Stone saying before the elections that they were going to purge millions of voters, usually ethically based, and purge millions of voters, and then they would take it to the courts and challenge it, even though it was unconstitutional. And guess what? They did it. And then he said, we'll close the voting locations. Guess what? He did it. There was bomb threats in Erie County in Pennsylvania all day, and those voting locations were closed down. And each time they tried to open them, Stone did what he said he would do, and he went to the courts and had them closed. Why? Because he didn't want voters to vote at a certain time after, in my opinion, the cheat code was in to purge a ton of votes. All the early voting for Kamala was purged out. And they knew if people voted in Erie County, it would show how big, see, that county was the county to win. It was the one that decided the president for years. So they knew that. That's why Leland went there and did his scam and got information from people and had fake voter registration websites. And after he did that, mysteriously, a whole bunch of fake ballots showed up. And then they said, oh, well, now that these people's names were taken from the internet, mysteriously, they can't vote until voting day. And then what happened on voting day? They couldn't vote because of bomb threats. So someone tried to argue with me. Yeah, no. You're not going to convince me that it was all normal. No. Nope. Okay. It probably was like AI, a bot that was voting with me. Okay, so next, Canada. Canada posted a ad that said why tariffs were bad. Tariffs really do not help capitalism. Anyway, and they said, and they posted a direct audio from a speech that Ronald Reagan made on tape, and they posted that, and Trump got really mad, and he reversed his tariff agreement with Canada. So here's the thing. I think that there should be a law, like Congress should write up a law today, the courts should, and say tariffs cannot be used as retaliatory methods against countries on a whim. They must be agreed to by the Congress and by law, the Senate et al. They must be agreed to first. No, not one person, not just one president can create tariffs as a retaliatory action against a country, which is what he's been doing left and right. Like, off with their head, off with their head. So it has to be approved first, and it can't be retaliatory. It has to have a certain, like a 2-week period before it can be approved to let the anger die down. And also it can be only a certain percentage. And if it will affect the food market, getting upset, and the economy and people's livelihoods, it cannot be approved. And there can only be a certain percentage of tariffs placed, nothing higher than the amount that would affect people, their livelihoods, and food supply. That's what they should do. SNAP. I think that SNAP, if they allow this to happen, I think that there's going to be a last minute thing like the shutdown will end. But see, the problem is 45 is just trying to take all the money. But I think there will be a last minute thing where the shutdown will end and SNAP will be okay, because I also think that what would happen is if they take away SNAP, there's going to be massive, like, French Revolution action, and people hungry in the streets is not a good picture. You think it's bad. You think the delusional imagery that 45 seems to have of Portland, Oregon burning, which is not, it wasn't until he sent that type of imagery. Imagine that all over the country, for real, with hungry people knocking on doors and burning cities because they're hungry. Walmart's going to close. It's going to be affected. It's going to affect people on SNAP. Actually help the economy. That's a lot. Military families are on SNAP. Veterans are on SNAP. It's just, I've never been on it, but I almost wish I had been, because I've suffered so much financially in the last few years because of like food and trying to feed kids, which I love and I would do again, obviously, and pets and all that. And people's pets are going to be affected, animals are going to be affected. But I wish I had been on it. I think, here's the thing, and I had this message yesterday, that SNAP is a great way the universe shows us to be open to receiving, and then we give back. And it's an open channel of giving and receiving, which is the way of the universe. And it's also about compassion, and it's about deepness of love and compassion. And again, it keeps the channel of giving and receiving open, which is how the universe works. And also being humble and learning non-judgment. So SNAP and food stamps are really important in that. Of course, the rich people don't see that because they're completely blocked off from spirit, and they're in their ego. They don't see it. But I think something's going to have to happen. SNAP's going to have to go ahead and be reinstated. It would ruin the economy worse than things already are. So. Okay, Democrats, we're talking about that. Why are some Democrats so, like, they can't see how bad it is? Because their perspective is off. They're too close to the problem. Yeah, I think that's about it. I can't think of anything else. You know, my predictions are SNAP will be reinstated at the last minute. The shutdown will end at the last minute. That's what I think. And, yeah, that's about it. I can feel the energy leaving. So thanks for listening, you guys. Oh yeah, and I do think that well, there's a chance that he could rip down the West Wing. There's a chance that the main structure of the White House could be torn down. I actually think that there's going to be something that stops him pretty soon from destroying anything else. Some legal action will halt all construction. So if they can't stop him, they can stop the construction company. And I think I could see that's going to happen. Thanks for listening. You guys have a great day. Take care. Bye.